Kyle Klingman with Track Wrestling. We're going out to Georgia. Jayme Pendergast is the athletic director at Life University. How are you, Jayme?
I'm great, Kyle. Thanks for having me.
Well, I've got to just go retroactive here and say that I put a headline that said that Jordan Nelson was on life support, and it sent some shockwaves to some athletes. So hopefully, it didn't do too much damage there.
I laughed out loud during that segment of sword puns. I enjoyed it.
What would yours be? I mean, what a great combination of life and sword. So many angles.
Well, I can't remember all of them, but I mean, somebody said like live by the sword, which just cracked me up. I might need to go with that one. There's too many good ones. And the funny thing is that they happen unintentionally, and those are probably the best ones.
They are for sure. In Life University, just the name Life, you have just a gold mine there with the athletic
We
department
do.
name.
We do. We do. And it's funny, Ashley was in here earlier and she was showing me a picture of her and Riley Dalrymple 3 years ago, I think it was, uh, some recruiting visit. And she's like, I aged. The picture looked like she had aged so much. And I just laughed hysterically because I was like, yeah, that's what coaching leadership will do to you. But it did. I gave her that. I was like, yeah, we all age in this profession.
How has Life University done it? You guys have done such a good job of getting on the radar and really being very progressive in how you approach your marketing. How have you guys done that?
A lot of good people. I think the university gives us a lot of infrastructure to build upon, and we started right off the out in the gate with hiring some really good coaches across the board. And once they prove the model, all the other new coaches that come in kind of build from that. They see what's possible. And then, you have a really good admin staff, great sports information director that can just get the graphics out, get the media attention, and see what we can do to promote our student athletes. So, it starts with we have a great place here that we can be successful, but it's the people that actually get the work done.
What's the model for bringing more athletic programs into the fold so that's part of the mix and that drives enrollment too?
Yeah, we're just finishing up this huge growth phase. I mean, we've added 13 different sports in the last 5 years, which is pretty incredible. When I started, we had less than, I think, 80 student athletes. We have 550, almost 600 now. And the model is just understanding what's going to be successful, right? So you got to look at your region. You got to look where our coaches can recruit. Where can our teams play, right? Because we don't want a bunch of flights. It has to be reasonable. But and then can you get a good coach? And that's the key to everything. And so I talk with the president, and if he has a number in mind from a roster size perspective, I do the due diligence and research. Um, they're gracious enough to let us hire the coach a full year in advance, which is critical in establishing a solid roster that first year. And then the coach kind of takes it from there. They build the culture, they vet the recruits, they set the standards and expectations. And if you can get a good coach, you can go a long way. And I think that's been the basis for our success so early. We're competing with a lot of institutions that have been around for 50 to 100 years, and we're infants in that game.
Your background is basketball, so you didn't know much about wrestling when you took this job. What do you know about it now?
Oh man, not enough to impress anybody at track wrestling, but and my son's in wrestling too, so I've learned a lot. You know, the scoring is way more interesting to me now that I kind of know some of the technique in the moves. I sit and watch my son, and he's fortunate enough to, he learned the ankle pick from our two-time national champ Nasomi Pozo, and he gets to roll around on the mats with both our men's and women's teams. But the difference, between freestyle and folk style, and what moves the crowd likes in women's wrestling, right? We love those throws. And it's fun. And now I can watch wrestling with a more critical eye from the perspective of, what technique they were using, what moves they were using. But yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to impress anybody with my technical skills.
But you're what we're trying to get into the fold of wrestling. So, as an outsider coming in, what can you tell us about the culture of the sport that might be unique?
Just gritty, resilient. And even being now, and Ashley jokes with me about being a wrestling mom because my kid competed in tournaments for the first time last year. But how I think this sport more than any other sport, the student athlete is actually like under a magnifying glass, right? You don't have teammates to deflect responsibility on. You don't have anybody but yourself to look at that result. And I think the discipline is just incredible. I was traveling with Omi's team to nationals 2 years ago, and to see their discipline on the road at nationals, understanding what goes into the weight descent plan, and how they manage their fitness and their weight during the season. um, it's incredible, and you don't quite see that from any other sport. And then from a larger cultural perspective, and this is why I'm in higher ed, it's a lot of first generation students who might not have been thinking about going to college, and all of a sudden now they can get a scholarship to play their sport, and it opens up avenues. And then if they're given a good college experience, I mean, who knows how far that can take them. And so, yeah, I think wrestlers are just really gritty. I think they're disciplined. They have a really strong mindset, but at the same time, you can really tell when there's a wrestler without that strong mindset because there's nowhere for them to hide.
Is it hard to understand right at the beginning, though, when you watch and you don't know anything about it? Is it really hard
Yep.
to pick up?
Yeah, I'll never forget. I one of my first matches at Life, I had to sit next to Dylan Evans. He's still here at Life, and he was explaining everything. I was like, "What does the two mean? Why is everybody yelling two?" And now, but once if you find yourself, I was even watching the stream from this past weekend, watched the women at Cumberland's and watched the men at Grandview. And like, I'm sitting on the couch, kind of like trying to, help them with their technique. Um, but it's a lot more fun when you know what to anticipate and what might be coming. And it gives you a better appreciation for the sport.
When you have so many sports at Life University, how do you stay checked in and engaged in all of them?
It's tough. It is. I can always do better, but I try to walk around. I try to talk to coaches. Um, my family knows I watch almost everything. If it's not at home, I'll throw on the stream, and then be able to engage the coach afterwards with, hey, not in a critical fashion, but like, hey, I saw this. Like, what were you thinking? But or hey, I liked seeing this, and I think just the being vulnerable, and especially the sports where I'm not as familiar, I think means a lot to them. I talked about, going on a lot of wrestling trips, but, I went to swimming nationals last winter, and learned a ton just about that scoring structure just from that visit. And now I can kind of engage our swim coach a little bit more in that technical aspect than I ever used to. um, but more so using, I think, little tidbits from different sports to help out other coaches. It's helpful to understand the nuances of different sports and be able to communicate them and make sense to other sports. Um, it's it's a useful tool.
Do you have a formula on how you manage time?
I live and die by my calendar. um, I'm I've never had issues with focus. I can stay pretty focused and get things done. Um, I Yeah, I put everything on the calendar. I'm not gonna I mean, even if it's, I gotta stop by Publix on my way home and get cream corn for dinner tomorrow, and I put it on my calendar because I know what time I'm leaving. And some might not think that that's a great way to live, but it keeps me straight, and it keeps me able to it, it it keeps me flexible enough that um, I can get to what I need to. I can take off what I don't need on the day. Um, but without it, I think I would be running around not knowing what was going on or what day of the week it was.
How have we gotten to this point where we just keep seeing this great growth for women's wrestling?
Yeah. Women's wrestling is taking off. I think, in my opinion, I think women's wrestling speaks for itself. I think e- some that might be skeptical of the sport are just, frankly not familiar with it. I mean, you check out a women's wrestling match, and I mean, that's one of the most exciting sports you can catch. I think I mean, my 3, almost 4-year-old girl loves going to wrestling practice. It's just fun to wrestle around, and now that there's more pathways for those young women to pursue that sport in high school, um, in college, I think it's only going to grow the sport. But also, I mean, from a athletic director and president's level, understanding it's a relatively low cost sport, that's fun to watch, it's competitive, it bodes well for the growth of the sport. And women's wrestling, I think it's the most underrated sports out there, and I think a lot of ads are sitting on gold mines, or untapped gold mines if they haven't added it yet.
No matter what you know about wrestling, you can be entertained by Omo Costa, can't you?
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes. Although I have to say, Omi on the sideline is so much different than office Omi. So I get a kick out of it. But yeah, he's a firecracker on the side of the mat. And it's so much fun, the passion that he has. You can't help but get excited about his team. And you can tell by the bench, right? The bench kind of mirrors his his sideline decorum, and it's great. It's infectious.
What's Office Omi like?
Office Omi is pretty straight to the point. He comes in, gets his work done, gets to the mat. Not a lot of small talk. He kind of facts are facts. Um, and but yeah, Omi's a great CEO. He's a great leader of his team. He really has that CEO mentality where it's not just about what's happening on the mat. He takes care of his admin duties. He takes care of the student athletes on and off the mat. And he's one that you just know, it doesn't take much to oversee him. Really, it's just me supporting him and cheering for him because he takes care of himself.
If an athlete wants to talk to you or has an issue, is that something you can accommodate?
Yeah. We always prefer, right, especially with this age group, that they engage in, difficult conversations with their coaches. But yeah, certainly. My calendar, those are the sort of things I'll move around on a day's notice to meet with a student athlete for whatever concern he or she may have.
What do you think about hosting championship events? I know they had the WCWAs there. Does that help your university?
It does. And I have to, give our coaches and our support staff all the credit for that. I'm not a lot of hands-on organization with that, but it does from a community perspective. So we're able to engage our community partners a lot more when we host those big tournaments. We engage our hotel sponsors and our food vendors, and our Marines contact came out. It just gets more people's eyes on the sport and our area. But it's not easy, and coaches take on a lot when they agree to host those. But we do think we can do things well, and we think it's a benefit because of what we have in this Marietta area.
What does it take to be a good leader in the athletic director role?
Oh, geez. I think a lot of patience, a lot of vulnerability, a lot of trust, and I think especially at life, because we're so young, is to project where we're going. It's been one of those things where you bring on a lot of coaches and a lot of staff without a lot of there's no history to point to, or there is, but it's a little disjointed here, and so painting a picture of what we can do with people's buy-in. Um, we're at the point where we have a lot of continuity on our staff, and a lot of really good people are bought in, and that's why I think we're seeing probably more success than really what we should at this point. And it's honestly, it's once you have the people in place, you just sit back and watch them go, and you're just here for support. Because I got a great group of coaches, especially that they're taking care of their business. They know what they're doing, and so I try to stay out of their way and just be here if they need me.
Well, and with this, we all have to consume some sort of fluids. Are you a coffee drinker, pop, water? What do you do?
um, Mocha in the morning all the time. It's Ashley always laughs at me because she calls it my morning milkshake because I can't drink straight coffee. Can't do it. Um, Probably too much Diet Coke than what I should. I'll slip in a couple bottles of water here and there. Not I'm not big on the hydration. It's I don't know. It's my thing. I don't get it.
Well, I appreciate this. Love what life is doing, and let's all stay on life support, okay?
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Kyle. I appreciate it.